So hi guys, hello, welcome to another exciting episode of Workplace Whispers. Of course, you know how we do it here. We bring you insightful conversations, interesting conversations, staff room conversations, just here and there. Basically, it's a no holds barred conversation on all things HR. And I am your host, Praise Mba. But today, I am not alone. And moving forward on the show, of course, I will no longer be alone. I have the amazing... Oh, I think, Miriam, do you want me to do the honors? Or do you want to do it by yourself?
Well, since, I'm joining for the first time. So
Okay.
You should.
Okay, because you know that if I do it, I would go all the way. And there's no stopping me.
Go all the way.
Permission to proceed?
Permission
Food
granted.
throttle?
Yes.
All right, so here we have the amazing, the beautiful, the exciting, the scintillating, the flabbergasting, the amazing Miriam. I mean, Miriam is all things beautiful, all things amazing, and she will be co-hosting this particular episode of Workplace Whispers. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Miriam. Did that
Wow,
cut it?
like, are you not saying? I'm even lost for words.
Yeah, I know. So should we give you a moment to get your thoughts
I'm good.
together?
I'm good.
Let me first ask you first. Let's start with this one. Miriam, how are you really doing? How are you?
Well, that question. How am I doing?
I feel like that there. Let's just pause on the home, because if you ask me how I'm doing, I'll say or I'll say chai. So maybe we should just take it, but I will take your because really it's a lot going on in the country, in Nigeria, transportation wise and all of that. I was at the junction this morning trying to get to work, and then because I usually come here very early, I get to work really, really early. I leave my house as early as 4:30 a.m. Staff of the year goes, yeah. But it's really risky, and the rates and the hike in transportation, getting to work every day 9 to 5 and still showing up, like, it's enough to ask every Nigerian now, how are you doing? It's really baffling times and crazy times right now.
Things are happening, like a lot of things are happening. So that question with how am I doing, that's why I answer with no, because there's a lot going on. I mean, where would I even start from? If I start from the waking up early, coming out from my estate, standing, waiting for bus.
That one. Well, before we go on here and start talking about all our life issues, because it's plenty, trust me. But steez on steez, we move. Yeah. Emphasis on the steez. But anyway, before we talk about and go into all of that conversation, we have also our guest in the studio. We're going to talk about these issues, talking about commuting as an employee, going to work. How are you commuting? How are you getting to work? But before we get into that conversation, before we start talking, because me and Miriam, we have a lot to say. First. Even me, I have a lot of stories to tell. But we need to introduce our guests. So, my workplace citizens, we have an amazing guest joining us on Workplace Whispers, and he is actually the first man to have joined Workplace Whispers since we started. That's a real, serious deal right there. And also, he is an HR consultant with HR Leverage Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome, as usual, Joshua Franklin.
I hope that you actually get MC gigs outside of this, because you're really, really good.
I think I will try to get MC gigs.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the same question that Miriam asked.
Yeah.
All right. So Joshua, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here. So before we go into everything, but first things first, I want to ask, please introduce you as a HR consultant. So I know viewers will be like HR consultant, but we want to get details, like what do you do? What's a HR consultant?
Okay, so a consultant is an expert in a lot of fields when it comes to human resources. Fields like outsourcing, organizational restructuring, performance coaching, because it's distinct from performance management, compliance, recruitment, Also because recruitment is different from talent acquisition, so you have to make that distinction. And so we are the people that organizations call when they run into a dead end. Or yeah.
Can I also add something to that? I know Miriam has already asked, but when I hear HR consultant, I'm feeling like, oh, this guy must have done a lot. Like maybe you spent like 40 years to be a consultant. So like, how does that? Am I the only person who thinks this, or do other people ask me? When you say I'm an HR consultant, yeah, but you're like young and stuff. So
yeah, so professionally, you are recognized as an expert when you've successfully completed 10 years of progressive practice. Right, so I'm approaching 10.
So you're like 10 years in this. 10 years. That's a
I'm
lot.
approaching.
Okay, so yeah, you have a big, vast
I do.
wealth of experience in the HR field. Amazing. I want to be like you when I grow up.
I'm still growing.
So let me ask this question I asked you again. So, frankly, leave Steve's first. How are you really doing in the wake of everything that's happening, in the light of everything happening in the country and the economy?
Well, I say I'm doing quite all right. I'm not insane yet. And so...
We're approaching?
No, not necessarily, because the fight in Nigeria is not just economical. It's a fight to keep your sanity, really. And that's where we are.
So how do you keep your sanity amidst the chaos?
Well, what I do is after a day's work, I go into my makeshift study and I plot down to write short stories and poems. So that's what I do. Yeah, because if you want to remain productive and creative, you need to be inwardly a rebel, right? You need to rebel against the mundane.
Okay.
Yeah, so
away from your HR gigs, you also do.
I do that.
You write short poems.
Yes.
You do that.
Wow, that's great. So I mean, someone can be watching this now and be like, "Wow, that's really great. You have work and you still have time
Oh yeah, I have
to
to.
still do that." So how do you mix that up together? How do you still have time to work and you still have time to do like personal things for yourself?
It's priorities really, but what it's down to is time management. You want to be able to control what you can, and produce what you also can in terms of quality and output. Yeah.
So do you actually have that time management?
Yes, for sure.
I think I'm even asking the wrong questions first.
Okay.
Can you relate to my pain? Like every day we're going to work. Do you go to work every day?
No, I don't. I don't go to work every
I think that's
day.
where we start from.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I should be happy or now I should start resenting.
Because it feels like maybe because you don't go to work every day,
Right?
maybe that's why you have time to still
I'm
do
just
other
talking
stuff.
about I think into myself, what time does the regular 9 to 5 have to even face?
Well, I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate in that regard. But also, I would say that it's a matter of choice. You have to choose what you can do.
Yeah.
So you have to choose a job or career that allows you to express the best part of your personality. People say, "Oh, I have a job. Yeah, but what's a job? Essentially, a job is really a collection of responsibilities that you're paid to carry out. So it's abstract in the actual sense of things. So you want to also pull down the job from the abstract place that it is, and then merge it with the reality of your choices. And in that situation, that's where a lot of people get stuck. So in psychology, we will call it the paradox of choice, paralysis stemming from too many options in terms of choosing. What do I have to choose? Do I do this? Do I do that? So it gets muddled, but you need to
I want
clarity.
to tell you right now. If you ever decide that you want to leave HR, I think you should be a professor.
I thought about that.
You try,
I thought about that full time, but professors are not properly compensated here.
So is it about compensation for you?
Yeah, it's about that. I mean, we're Nigeria.
Because I see you as one of passion and all of
Yeah,
that.
I'm very
But has there ever
passionate.
been a time when you were actually doing the regular 9 to 5, jumping from bus to...
Yeah.
And how was that experience for you like? And what made you look for that shift?
Okay. So I think it was in 2017. I used to work a job as a receptionist and that, and the salary was around 10,000 naira, and I would go to work every day, At the
Wow.
end of the month, when I was doing checks and balances, it was minus.
The math was not
It was
mathing.
not mathing at all at that particular point in time.
Did you just
So-
leave school at that time? And
Yeah, you know, I didn't want to be idle, and so I just, let me just work. I wanted to work. I wasn't thinking really. I just wanted to work. So, yeah, it was a struggle. It was a real struggle.
So
But
when-
I
okay.
gained valuable experience during that time.
All right. So is it from? Will you say it's from your experience, like because you said something about choice? So and I feel like that choice is like you're saying, okay, when you're looking for jobs, you should look for something that works for you.
Yeah.
So. Like that's why I'm sure that's why Praise had to act. Like,
Yeah.
was there ever a time where you had that?
For sure,
Yeah.
because
do we even get to make that choice? Because like you said, at some point you just needed to work and you didn't want to just work because you felt like working.
I
You
thi-
had bills to pay.
I think
So-
everyone has that choice, at a particular point in their lives. It's either you choose or life chooses for you. You don't want life to choose for you, trust me, because it's bad. So the options that we have is to pick your poison. You don't get to not choose. You have to choose.
So can you 100% choose your career path? Because
Yes, you
the
can.
way I see it now, because I
Mhm.
think I have another view on that.
All right.
Sometimes we really don't get to choose.
Hmm.
I think so. Because even when we get to go to school, sometimes, okay, how many people here are actually did the course that they wanted to do? The system chooses for you.
So,
you know?
uh,
And then you come out of that and then you want to apply for a job, you don't get to see what you want. And people just say, don't sit down at home now. Even if it's teacher, you see, the lesson teacher, do it first. Whatever your hands finds to do, do it.
I have a bone to pick with the school system.
Okay, let's pick that bone
Because-
together.
There is a lot of people that are qualified, right? They try not qualified people, quote and unquote, but qualified to do what exactly? People go to school and they don't know what they're learning, right? Why are you going to school? You're going to school really because school disciplines you, makes you into something, and that something should be very powerful in the world, which is an articulate person, being able to formulate arguments, being able to speak in such a way, right? Like you're doing, like she's doing. But a lot of people don't get that. If you're able to sort through the mess of everyday life with the way that you construct your words, then you can consider yourself a fairly successful person.
So in all of that, the school system is not
It doesn't.
doing-
It doesn't.
it's not
It
doing-
doesn't. It's the school system
Is
that
it
we
a
actually.
Nigeria thing? Because you're not the first person saying that. I think we're having that
Yeah, so
conversation.
the school system that is being, imbibed and taught to learners today is from a factory system in Prussia, right? So you're bred to say yes to authority. You're bred to sit still. You're bred to ask for opportunities to raise your hand, ask for questions, and that's not really how to educate someone, right? If let's look at the word, for example.
All right.
The school system, right? The way it's structured, it favors women, the psychological makeup, and I'll say this, right? Because women are more agreeable psychologically, right? And statistics back this up. More men are leaving schools. More men are doing less school. They're
Do you think
ditching the educational
is that
system.
on pressure? Well, go ahead. Though.
They're ditching the educational
Okay.
system en masse,
Mm.
right? And that's not good. That's not good at all.
Okay, I want to follow that line because you
Yeah.
said so many things now, but
Yeah,
I think I will
lots.
just hold on. Just hold on because when you say more men are leaving
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
well, I would say that maybe there's the way the society is built now
mhm.
is not really fair on the men. That's what I would think because there's a
Well-
lot of pressure. The women are more agreeable. We don't have all that pressure. Last, maybe you'd get married, you
Yeah.
have your
There's
kids.
this thing about an Odogu's wife now. Yeah.
Which is something I want to be.
Yeah.
Sister singing man. So you have that you can still, at the end of the day, you might see a very nice hunk looking man and then you just get married and all of that. But for the men, they want this thing fast because some way, I think social media has also contributed,
Yeah, it
because
has.
you go online, you see your guy, wait, what are these people doing that I'm not doing, you know? So most of them are looking for faster means for them to now make that money. That's why most people won't even sit in the comfort of their homes and make money. That's why we've seen a lot of this rise in remote work. A lot of people want, if it's not remote, I'm not doing. If it's not hybrid, I'm not doing.
Remote work
So-
is a very fascinating thing.
Yeah, so speaking about remote work,
Yeah.
maybe we should talk about that some more.
Yeah, I feel we should go into that part. So, with this whole commuting and how stressful it is, so do you feel like remote work has come to stay, or is that the solution?
So let's talk about commuting for a moment before we talk about remote work, because commuting in itself is is a very, very telling symptom. Nigeria is a third world country with first world problem. So there's an apparent incongruence. It doesn't it doesn't really go together. And so why are we spending so much time commuting? Because globally, commuting is the least liked part of the workday. People don't like commuting, but the fact remains that when a place is rich, right, affordable housing and work at a disparity, right? So you commute longer times. For example, in South Korea, you spend an average of 55 minutes
Getting to work.
Yeah, getting from home to work, right?
That's the journey to and fro.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
you-
short.
short?
Yeah.
Are you sure? On average?
Because I'm thinking, do you mean 55 minutes, like getting to work and coming back to total
No,
of
getting to
55?
work.
Getting to work.
Yeah,
Okay.
getting to work.
No, that's long now.
And that's insane commuting times. Also that, like I said, when a place is rich, urban cities, commuting times are long, and then you have the cost of housing as well, which in first world countries, cities in first world countries, the cost of housing
Yeah.
is rising, has been rising at 20%, 20% per annum, right? So same in Nigeria, where things are largely unregulated, right? So where can I find cheap housing, and where can I find good work? How do you define good work to do? Well, good work is, maybe you have a job that in 2 months, with 2 months of work, you've been able to cover your rent. That's sensible enough. That's good work. So where do you find those kind of work? In our context, Lagos, is it on the mainland or on the island?
Yeah,
You
if in
tell
Lagos,
me.
it's on the island.
Exactly.
That's
So
just
now
what it
you
is.
see the reality of the commuting times. All right.
So in contrast to remote work, how do you see that, placing that side by side, like she asked?
So remote work, like I said, it's really something, wonderful phenomenon. Who is benefiting really?
Who is benefiting?
Exactly. Right, because we have to understand if we are actually growing or we've merely adapted, right? COVID-19, 2020.
People worked from home during COVID-19.
Exactly, they did. They adapted, right? But the reality of that is that the corporations have been able to transport or transfer the risk from themselves to the employee, right? The risk factor now is in the comfort of your homes, and working from the comfort of your homes now, I think it's even an illusion really, because you do more work at home. Actually, you do more work.
Are you talking like someone who is, because I know that you work hybrid.
Yeah.
We had that conversation.
Yeah, you do more work. You do
When
more
you're
work.
at home?
Yeah, you do more work for sure.
Really?
Yeah, there are more things. There are more things to do.
I'm surprised you said that. I felt like the fact that you work from home will give you some maybe space, or maybe the work, load might not be that much. Though
much,
it might be
right?
much,
Yeah.
though, but I mean, no one is seeing you physically. So I mean, it feels like you get to do some stuff when you want to do it.
Well, you control your time and you're responsible, right? That's fine. But things like the cost of internet, I know how much I spend on internet because of it. So there's, when organizations hire you, there's a cost of staffing, right? But you as the employee, you have to also understand the cost of doing that work that you're being hired to do. What does it cost you, right? Does it cost you your mental health? as that's the buzzword of today.
Yeah.
Does it cost you physically, your physical condition? You know, are you sleeping enough? You know, how is your mood, for example? So let me talk about mood for a bit. You know, moods are largely predicted by during the day, whether you've had breakfast or not, right? So your moods are likely to not be properly regulated if you've not had breakfast that day, right? And I've observed this as well as looking at the literature. I've observed this really because you're disproportionately more aggressive. There was a colleague of mine, Christian. He used to be the operations manager when I was working on the island, and Christian had caffeine as his crutch. He wouldn't eat, and he would take it.
That's me right
and then
there.
he would be all hyper. His eyes would be open. He would be so Christian.
But he doesn't
calm
eat,
down.
Abby.
He doesn't eat breakfast. So eat
Oh, that's
breakfast.
me. Yeah.
Eat breakfast, please.
You know,
Yeah.
but I think for Christian is me, and I am Christian because
You like caffeine?
yeah, I think I live
Oh,
on
my
caffeine.
goodness.
It's wrong, it's bad, but I think, like you said, for me, I'm not a morning food person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not a breakfast person. I'm a morning food person.
Okay.
Nigerians, we know the difference, you know, and so for breakfast sometimes, because maybe I'm more of a morning person. I like to do most of what I do in the morning.
Okay.
So I need my caffeine to get up and go and get my work sorted and all of that. But when it starts dwindling, you really can tell that I'm losing my
Concentration levels.
inner
dip.
chakra.
Concentration levels start to
It
dip
begins
from,
to dip in and all
like,
of that.
3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Your body concentration starts to dip. So whatever it is I'm doing, anything at all, I try to do it cut off 2 p.m. 3
So
p.m.
before that, I'm.
No.
But I'm interested. You've said, because if let's leave let's go straight to it. Remote work, on-site work. Which one would you prefer?
I can't make a choice.
I need you to make a choice. Okay. Or where do we draw the balance? But which one would you, if you were to?
So if you know, I think let's do an ideal scenario.
Okay,
In an
let's paint
ideal
that.
world, right? The cost savings that organizations are making in terms of real estate, electricity, all that, they should, you know, find a way to add it to staff benefits, right? Increase staff benefits. Because if you're saying, oh, who is growing, what is growing, the organizations are actually growing, they're saving more. What about the employee? Do you understand? And this is something that I'm really passionate about because employees are giving you something that you cannot repay, you cannot return back to them, which is their time, right? So how do you compensate the time factor aside the normal remuneration? So that's the balance needs to be.
So the balance is from the employer
Yeah.
needing to, you know, find that as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm just, because me, I would have said in this context, right? Me, I'm all for on-site in a way. I know that it might be stressful, but I'm for on-site because now I'm going to go from the human relationship side of things.
Great.
That's
Great.
where I'm going to come
Great.
from, because I feel like we literally spend most of our times in the office.
Yeah. So yeah.
And most people have gotten married from working.
Yes.
Yes.
From working.
Yes. for
Most
sure.
people have gotten, you know, partners, business deals, and all of that. You know, lifelong relationships just by coming every day and seeing this person at work. But if you don't do that, you're really going to take that away from people. Because
Exactly.
if you think about it, there's some people that, if not for work, they would never go out.
Yes.
They will never meet people.
Yes.
So I think you're taking away something really fundamental.
Yes. It's,
Human relationship.
Yes, for sure. I agree with that. For example, a newborn baby, if you don't touch that baby in the space of maybe 5 days max, the baby will die. So we need connection. We're social creatures. There's a pandemic of loneliness, really,
I agree with you.
because
I agree.
people are existing in isolation. There's a lot of pressure on the individual now than there's ever been in human history. And that's why you're seeing things like mental breakdown at an all-time high. We live in a postmodern world where everything is shrinking, the world is shrinking. Can you go out with this person or you'd prefer to just text them on your phone. For me, I don't really do text. I like physical interactions and conversations. Yeah, it's better.
But you come across as someone who is very much quiet and doesn't go out a lot.
I am quiet, but when there's a need to speak up, I don't shy away from that.
Okay, that's amazing. So, Miriam, remote work or hybrid work? I think it has gone round.
I mean, like,
But really, I feel I would pick hybrid because I still have the time to still, talk to my colleagues when I get to work. I'll still have time to relate with people. But fully remotely, even in Nigeria, it will take a lot from you. Your data, electricity.
But when people say data, isn't the company, shouldn't the employer pay for all of that? There's subsidy. There's data subsidy, isn't there?
The let's just say nothing is actually at its value anymore. Nothing is actually given its value. You get data of how much, maybe 1,000, 5,000. Before you know it, it's done. It's done. Then you can't. I don't even want to begin to go through my own.
So, like, how much do you spend on data?
Oh my goodness. Man, it's I think between 20 to 25,000 monthly. That's on Airtel, right? So
And then if you put that side by side, how much you would have spent on
Well, there's
transportation.
Wi-Fi in the office.
If you
Do you
were
get?
okay,
There's
nice.
Wi-Fi there, right? So that's something.
But in the wake of all this happening, hiking prices of petrol and transportation.
exactly.
Now, I mean, don't you think that maybe employers should say, you know what, guys, work from home? But now I'm thinking about the question of cost, like you said, and what the implications would be for the employee, because you have to bear the brunt of the data, and maybe there's no light. What happens at that point?
In fact, because of this global change and adaptation, I don't really like to call it growth. Companies in the US are going for contract workers now. In Nigeria, you can't do that. You can't do that, right? They're hiring contract workers, and when your contract is up, you're done, right?
Why? Because they don't want to.
Exactly.
because
They're
of
not going to
retaining
renew
you?
it, and exactly. So, companies in Silicon Valley, they are aggressively trying to cut costs at this moment, and that's funny because the inflation rates in the US is roughly at around 3.3%. It's been stable, but in Nigeria, it's around. Last time I checked, it was 32.3.
It's double digits already.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's a problem.
And it's a big issue because things are changing so rapidly in Nigeria, and people are struggling to keep up.
The way you're saying it looks like there's no end in sight. So what exactly should the employer do in times like this from the HR point of view? What should an employer do? I mean, it's rising, it's all of that. I'm thinking, okay, stay at home, but you are making me say, no, staying at home is not even going to cut it. Should there be some form of transportation subsidy, something?
Because I think
what can they do?
About employee benefits.
Yeah. So, transportation, data, it's part of the solution, right? People want to meet their colleagues. Where I work currently, I have a very dear friend, and I'm still on the job because of that dear friend. So employers underestimate the power of social influence and relationships in the workplace, right? So you want to have that, and you want to, HR, the onus is on you to create that culture of, physical meetings, contacts, what do they call it? Thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, team bonding and all of that.
Those kind of things.
But can you have all of that remotely?
No.
Team bond online.
You should take the bonding out of it. You should take the bonding out of it if you're going to have it remotely.
I mean, you just brought
won't
another very reasonable angle. So where do you get all of that with remote working? The team bonding. But I can assure you that some people would take working from home over team bonding. 100%.
Okay, like we're even talking about people like, let's say, community and commuting, like that's within Nigeria. But there are people that even live in Nigeria and they are, they work for people in the US, UK and all that. So that's every single day of their lives. They're just on their computers. So there's no time for them to even.
And that's not good.
Screen time.
That's not good. That's not good.
So for you now, how do you draw the balance? She just mentioned screen time also and all of that. But then does remote work? Now, this concept of remote work, let's even stay, because this is a question I always hear people ask. Does remote work mean that you have to work at home? doesn't it mean that you can work from anywhere?
You can work from
You
anywhere.
can be
Yeah.
at the
And
beach.
If
or-
you're paying attention, right, it has given rise to another kind of business, which is portable office spaces.
Mm.
Do you understand? So the businessman is, rubbing his hands together and saying, "Oh, it's another opportunity," because people want to work from
The evil side of
different
me is
places.
clicking.
Yeah, exactly.
It just might be something.
It's not
Because there've been so many these days. You see office hubs here,
Mhm.
pay
Yeah,
how much to work
workstations
every day,
and all of
you get-
that.
So you just go there with your laptop. There's
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, so you don't have to bother by electricity and Wi-Fi.
But you pay for it still.
Staff.
But you have
I
to
mean,
pay.
the cost of working. Yeah,
Something has
exactly.
to give.
Something has to
Something
give.
just has to
Yeah.
give. So what we're not, so it means
Right now, that this commuting, with the transportation, everything, that means if at work we get to have some certain benefits, then maybe we can still feel some type of way. Okay, maybe even if I had to stand, well, when I get to work, maybe there's still some stuff that I would get at work that will still make me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because the way we are talking about it, all these things, it seems like even remote work that I felt like would be the
This is
solution.
salvation.
Yeah,
It's not
it's not necessarily the solution. Also, I think it's a rule of thumb that employees don't leave jobs; they leave bad managers, and so middle management is very, very responsible for the long-term talent retention strategy of any organization. Middle management, very, very essential. So if your line manager is not good to you, you're going to leave the job. I don't care how much you're earning. You're going to leave.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially,
That's true.
In this, what do they call them? Gen Z, who I refuse to identify with.
So you're not
uh,
Gen Z.
Nah, I don't identify with them. To use the
Yeah, because I feel like,
Balance.
well, I would identify with them because Gen Z. But I think also another thing that we need to talk about is when you talked about Gen Z and the fact that they are peculiar set of people and type of people. So in terms of leadership, there's a level of peculiarity that comes into play when dealing with Gen Zs.
Okay.
Now, talking about, because these guys want to work, they want to have fun while they work, they want to be able to work,
Fun.
and they need to have team bonding
Yeah,
experiences.
something
like that.
They want to be able to express themselves creatively and all that. They want to really be able to have work-life balance. Although some people will argue, is there really such a thing as work-life balance?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Let's say 300-400 years ago, people did not even think about the concept of work-life balance. People were working to survive, subsistence, right? It was agrarian societies, work to survive. But, now the average person will spend a third of their lives working, right? And we're not just working to earn money anymore. We're working to be fulfilled, right? And no other generation group embodies that than the Gen Zs. And so, of course, if your organization is not providing, avenues for them to express themselves and really enjoy their time in your company, then they're going to withdraw, right? Work-life balance is essential, but then again, I don't think it's tenable. I don't think it's tenable. It's
agree.
down to
I agree.
the individual, because
Yeah.
you could be enjoying time out with your friends like this,
Yeah.
and your line manager will call you. Oh, I need you to. No. I need you to finish that project with Mr. XYZ. You have to finish it now, right? And so there's that. I have this experience, So I worked as an executive assistant at some point to an MD, and there was no work-life balance really. Everything was out the window, gung-ho, fire brigade, do this, do that. I got so incensed. I wrote an essay and I sent it to her. The next day or some days after that, she got food for everybody, and then we didn't hear any of that anymore. So it's that rebellion that I
Was
that I
it
spoke
rebellion or you
about.
actually spoke up and let her know how you felt? It could be two ways.
I wrote to her. That's it.
So you couldn't speak to her.
Luck-
there was a
luck-
communication,
lucky- Yeah, there
regardless.
was. I mean,
At least you did something.
yeah, and something happened, and that's it. Yeah.
So I think sometimes, also what I've gotten from that is sometimes you really just need to speak up, because these guys, they're your managers, but they might not know how much of, the impact that they have in the work and all of that.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to speak up.
I remember the time I was having a conversation with a senior colleague, and I mentioned fun when I was talking about work, and he looked at me like, What are you talking about? No, Franklin, no.
So you can't have work and have fun. It can't be put together in the same sentence.
I
You
do.
have to find it.
I can't thrive without
I
having
don't know how
fun.
to put that together. So it's just like when you're asking about Gen Z, I feel like it should not be a general thing. There's nothing like a Gen Z, like that's what they think. If everybody can always find a way to, think within yourself, what do I want? What kind of jobs do I want? Then maybe put that. But then again, as a HR consultant, so I'm coming from, there was a time where I had an interview. And then
A job interview?
A job interview.
Okay.
So it got to that part where they'll say, do you have any questions for me? And then I asked, what's your work-life culture like? What's working? And the person was like, what do you mean by that?
Wow.
So with that answer, it's obvious that you want me to
There's
just
no
come
such
and
thing.
there's
Give
no
me your
such
life.
thing. Like,
Work for me.
Oh no.
I feel like that's a conversation that we need to have, but the time is really not on our side. But as we wrap up, Franklin, very importantly, Workplace Whispers, we always like to give a secret here. That's how we do it. Give a secret to our listeners.
Something.
Drop something. So if you were to drop a secret for someone listening, maybe it could be on your work, maybe something about life, something that you think people should know right here, right now, that maybe the world is not having enough of that, what would you say to them? Is it cheap if I'm not listening? Or maybe we are.
Forgive your parents. Because when you do, you heal a lot of trauma, unspoken traumas. I think people should do that. One more thing I'm going to say is that, look, we're alive. We're creatures that love to be alive. We are here to kill war. We're here to drink wine. We're here to live our lives so well that death will shudder at the thought of taking us. And
So live your life.
Yeah.
Cheers to that, people. It's a mug, but cheers regardless. Cheers to living life
cheers.
while we work. Well, thank you so much, Franklin Joshua,
thank you.
for making our time to be here
Yeah,
on
for
Workplace
sure.
Whispers. It was really amazing having
Very
you.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And my name is Praise Umba. Thank you guys for keeping it Workplace Whispers.
yeah, and I'm Miriam. Thank you.
In case you don't know, let me tell you again. So Joshua Franklin is a HR consultant at HR Leverage Africa. So you want to check this man out. You could do that because it's
Like, I mean, I'm going back now with, there's so many things. And I now know that with what you said, choices. You have to think
right.
before you take that job.
Yeah, you have to
You
think
have
for
to
sure.
think for sure.
Don't just run into
Don't just,
it.
exactly.
Before you sign those dotted lines.
Yep.
Okay, and with those dotted lines, we call it a wrap. Thank you. Keep it Workplace Whispers. And make sure that you follow us on all our social media platforms, SOL Nigeria on YouTube, and of course on Instagram and Facebook. Keep it SOL Nigeria. Go out there and have fun at work.